was he?
Mademoiselle, you're in Rick's. And Rick is,
Is what?
Well, Mademoiselle, he's the kind of man that, well, if I were a woman and I were not around, I should be in love with Rick.
Casablanca, of course, is the greatest movie of all time.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
There are those who may hold with Citizen Kane, and I too marvel at the technical acumen. Some might make an argument for Gone with the Wind, but does the lost cause really need to ride again?
As God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again.
When there are literal fascists in the streets of America, you might as well be arguing for the original Birth of a Nation. Only Casablanca, of all movies, is the one worth coming back to more than any others.
Everybody comes to Rick's.
It is perfectly quotable.
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
It has humor. It has action. And the argument it makes is the most important in the world. When faced with the ability to do something for freedom, what does love matter?
Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world.
But the reason we watch Casablanca above all is the love story. Without the love, there's no impetus for Rick Blaine's sudden regrowth of a heart. Only because Rick finally remembers that above all he loves Ilsa Lund unconditionally does he remember that he so loves the world that he would fight for it. This is why he must lose her at the end. And I do not think he knows he's going to make the correct decision until they get directly to the airport. He's on the verge, but seeing a concentration camp survivor go free with a woman they both love and who loves them both passionately, differently, perhaps equally, he can only make the decision that he does. He returns to the fight.
Well, Rick, you're not only a sentimentalist, but you've become a patriot.
This is what a great love story does. Love is only the inspiration, the breath that begets the genius of the people involved. It is why the greatest love stories can be seen as tragedies. I would hear discount Romeo and Juliet, a play Shakespeare even takes to task when he rewrites it in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
My love! Thou art my love, I think.
Take what thou wilt. I am thy lover's grace, and like thy mander am I trusty still.
And I like Helen till the fates me kill.
And I pause to wonder if there is any true and equal love actually in Shakespeare. The closest perhaps is that of Mistress Ford and Mistress Page for their husbands, but their husbands prove all the more jealous for their steadfastness. Perhaps it is the friendship between Ford and Page themselves, but that is another matter. We're talking Casablanca, and true love lies not in the interrelationship between the amorous and the erotic lovers of the story, but in what they draw out of each other. It is the words that the innamorati say that are the art, not the fact that they are once again separated by fate. No good story comes without friction, without disaster. And as fiction is all written, controlled by the writer, it is a disaster in all the purest sense. It is a chaotic star. The ruling fates, what Romeo himself might call those stars, have preordained the end of each story.
I defy you, stars!
Casablanca begins with the notion that everyone is waiting to escape. If everyone is waiting to escape, then so is Rick. He can only escape when he is ready to deal with his past, and he succumbs to the hero's journey as easily as any motion picture hero.
Gin joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
We can simplify, of course, and follow Rick through Dan Harmon's distillation of the Campbellian storycraft. Rick is a man who runs a gin joint in Morocco. He wants to escape the pain that he feels because Ilsa left him standing foolishly in the rain.
That's the last call, Mr. Richard. Do you hear me?
Waiting for the one person who moved him to passion to join him? Of course she does not. In order to escape, he made his way to Morocco, but he cannot escape the process of history that is all around him. Like a James Joyce character, he cannot awaken from the nightmare that is history. He tried to leave Paris, to run away, In Campbell's model, this would be his refusal of the call to adventure. Though he makes a tidy home in Casablanca, becoming the center of social life, everybody comes to Rick's, he does not find the escape that he is searching for. The escapade that he really wants is an escape back into the perfect romance he believes he had with Ilsa. What luck, then, that she and her husband have arrived now in Casablanca and she has returned to his life.
I love you very much, my dear.
Yes. Yes, I know.
He can get back exactly what he wants and retreat into his fantasy. He indeed tries this, but it doesn't work. Ilsa is not a fantasy person. She is her own individual, and Rick must learn that projecting fantasies is not love. Only by accepting that everything Ilsa does is out of love and admiration for her husband, who she would do anything for, does Rick pay the price he needs to escape the dreamland he has built for himself at his American cafe. Everything Rick built is an illusion that comes crashing down when he accepts that Ilsa cannot be his.
She did her best to convince me that she was still in love with me. That was all over long ago. For your sake, she pretended it wasn't, and I let her pretend. I understand. Here it is. Thanks. I appreciate it. Welcome extra fight.
He sells the dream so he can fund his return to reality. Ilsa and Victor Laszlo fly away on the plane. Rick, the freedom fighter, has returned. We'll always have Paris becomes the watchword of Rick, learning what is so very difficult for so many of us today. He has to move on, having mourned, and become a better person because of it. Retreat to the fantasy land means a retreat from the reality of the situation. Rick needs to re-enter the scene as himself, not as a plaything in a play world. And when Rick can do it, fakely cynical Rick Blaine, so too can a Vichy collaborator. The hero's journey here works and not the heroine's journey, though that telling is much more powerful because Rick uses violence at the end. This solves his immediate problem. But when the immediate problem is a Nazi who wants to kill the survivor of multiple concentration camps like Laszlo, I don't blame Rick. Welcome to the world of adulthood, casting off child things, seeing through a glass darkly. In other words, the escape that Rick finds is the escape into the notion of transcendental love. I love you because you can be the better person I want you to be.
It doesn't make any difference about our bet. You still owe me 10,000 francs.
And that 10,000 francs should pay our expenses.
Our expenses? Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
This is Ilsa's genius. This is why her tear drops as she looks up at Rick, knowing that he must break out of a delusion are the sign of a real, honest love.
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have. We lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
When I said I would never leave you.
And you never will. But I've got a job to do, too. Someday you'll understand that. Now. Here's looking at you, kid.
That this honest love feels so sad? Well, Amiri Baraka reminds us that love is an evil word. Turn it backwards and see. Ah, there's the darkness that makes two little people meeting up for a moment in this too weary world, the spark that will not die. There's the pilot light. There's Casablanca. And if I were a woman, then Rick's the kind of man who would inspire me to love Ilsa Lund.
Major Strasser has been shot. Round up the usual suspects. Oui, mon capitaine.